Hey guys, Jay here, and in this video today I want to talk a little bit more about the 12 classes that we are going to have in the early access of Path of Exile 2, which is going to be out on December 6th. So around 2 weeks from now, I believe, from the point of recording this video. The game is going to be released with 6 out of 12 total character classes. However, each of the 6 class that is going to be released is going to have 2 Ascendancy classes. So 2 Ascension choices that you can have if you play each class. In the end game, I mean not in the end game of the early access, but in the end, the game is going to be fully released with a total of 12 classes, character classes, and then each of them is going to have 3 instead of 2 Ascendancy classes. So this game is going to be insanely bigger than it even is right now in the early access. 36 total Ascendancy classes with 12 characters, so a lot of choices. Very excited for this game. If you are too, please consider to like and subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of video, and stay tuned for more content like this. Just a heads up, I am going to, watch the Tavern Talk podcast from Dath Microtransaction and Gazi TV with Jonathan Roger. That thing, I believe, is like more than 7 hours or something. I would try to watch that, and then I would try to compile all the information that we got from the podcast, and obviously the GGG live stream, and also the Q&A with Ziggity, which is also more than 2 hours something. So that is roughly 10 to 11, maybe 12 hours, math is hard, of content, of information. I would try to compile them all into a much shorter video. So if you are someone who don't really have a lot of time, or someone who is not yet like heavily invested into PoE like myself, which is totally normal and totally, you are the majority. You can have a relatively affordable piece of video that will contain all the main information that I think are important and noteworthy about the upcoming early access game, which by the way is pretty much a full-fledged out game. It contains, I would say, around 40-50 hours, that is GGG's estimation, of campaign time for a brand new player. So if you don't know anything about the game, about the genre, that is going to take that amount of time to even finish the campaign. And they have a fully fleshed out end game with infinite capability of expanding your end game, and also the pinnacle bosses with a bunch of guardian general bosses surrounding him that you need to defeat before you even get to the pinnacle bosses. So very exciting stuff. Stay tuned for that, and again, please consider to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to have more information and stay hyped about PoE2. Anyway, without further ado, it's been long enough of an intro. Let's get to the actual content of this video, which is about the 12 Ascendancy classes that we are going to have. Please be noted that we don't have full information about all of them. That is going to be more exciting when we actually get in the game, but for everything that we know so far, I will try my best to get an overview of each classes, and then also my take on it as a relatively experienced PoE player. I played for 13 or 14 years something. I think at 13 years, going into 14, I played a lot of this game. Anyway, let's get to the very first classes. This is going to be the Mercenary, the Witch Hunter. Mercenary is the base class. Witch Hunter is the Ascendancy class. This is going to have, as all the classes, a bunch of choices that you can make that will modify your character in different ways. But for now, the information that we have known so far, this Witch Hunter, I believe, will be one of, if not the strongest class that is going to be available in the early access of POE2. Why is that? Well, this class, first of all, has Witchbane, concentration. From all the information I know about concentration, it basically means it's like effectively like silence. So the boss is not going to be able to cast ability. They are going to just auto attack, do normal attack. So no dangerous ability if they don't have full concentration. So you need to break the enemy's concentration, so you will have basically more uptime on damage, because the boss are not going to do like very dangerous stuff that you need to dodge, and therefore when you dodge you cannot deal damage effectively. Most of the time that is how these kind of game kind of work. So Witchbane, that is going to be, you know, quite helpful while you try to fight big bosses or something like that. Second point, number 2, Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Decimating Strike. This is a little bit of an RNG, but it is a very strong thing. Assuming you come into PoE, I would recommend you to go for a softcore instead of hardcore, because hardcore is way too punishing for new player for PoE. Death, you lose a lot of time. That is basically it. For any game that death means just a lot of time wasted, you will be kind of like discouraged from continue going on a lot of the time. So go softcore. So Decimating Strike here, what it does is it can deal anywhere from 1% to 30% of the enemy's maximum health, and this applies to all monster in game, all bosses, I believe even the pinnacle. So this is a huge amount of damage. In the showcase for this particular ability in the GGG livestream, we see that it hits for like close to 300,000 damage, while the following normal hits that the character is doing is like 2k, 3k or something. So it can be like hundreds of hits at once. Also, while you are playing the game, you are going to face a lot of bosses, and this basically saves your time while farming, while progressing. So this is going to be very, very powerful. I think it is going to be amazing, even though it does have a little bit of RNG gated. But if you play softcore, if you die, you reset the boss, you do it again, and basically you have another try of rolling the dice on Decimating Strike. I personally think this is insanely good. If it rolls well, it effectively is a 30% more damage overall, because the enemies has 100% health, and you basically remove 30% of it. So compared to all the notes, the other notes of the other classes, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but comparatively this is a lot of damage numerically. Next up, Obsessive Ritual. Sorcery Word. Well, I don't think this is going to be worth it, at least from the PoE1 veteran standpoint. A temporary the Sorcery Word is like a temporary shield, but in exchange you have 50% less armor and evasion. So basically you are way more vulnerable to a lot of hits, a lot of small hits, and you are also more vulnerable to one big hit that potentially can one-shot your character. That is just from the PoE1 standpoint. In PoE2 it might be different, so this might be good, but I don't think it's good because it is conditional defense. Conditional defense can just randomly get you, you know, it can be very good when it's up, but when it's down, you basically just have the downside. And so it's not going to be a good choice unless the notes after it. And when you see on the skill tree over here, right, number 3 here, Obsessive Ritual, if this one is going to be good, then this is going to be okay. But if this one is not that, you know, attractive, then yeah, this is kind of dog shit, I guess. Zealous Inquisitor. So number 4, 10% chance for enemies you kill to explode during 100% of their life as physical damage, and the chance is double against undead and demon. Well, my friend, if you don't know anything about POE1, let me tell you that explosion is king. Well, speed is technically king as well, but explosion is absolutely amazing in PoE. It will feel really amazing. It will feel really impactful, and it will feel really nice when you have the explosion going. This is a 10% chance to kill, to explode. Let me tell you, with 5% chance in PoE1, we already have a great time with the Chieftain in PoE1. So, built-in explosion for a lot of clear speed. Have very nice ascendancies for bossing. Nice damage early on. Doesn't need good gear to get the judge, jury, and executioner. It doesn't care about your gear, about your damage. It just deals a chunk that is based on an enemy's health. So this ascendancy is going to feel really good. It has AoE, has single target, it has basically everything. I do believe if you want to build this character, you need to be mindful a little bit about defense, because I don't see it to be a very mobility centric character. So it will move around, it will shoot, and when you are shooting, when moving around, you move a little bit slower. So mobility is not going to be very high here. Be mindful of defenses, right? But this class overall, I would think that this is the best, hands down, that we have in early access, right? So next one, Mercenary, also Gemling, Legionaire. So this is going to have a bunch of shenanigans with quality of all skill gem, with 3 additional skill slot, with maximum resistance per socketed support gem. So it is going to be all surrounding a lot of gems. What can this be good for? Well, this can be good for builds that are a little bit later into the game. I think this is a end game ascendancy. It's not going to be newbie friendly, because you only have a limited amount of button that you can manage. Assuming that you can even bind all the skill gems into some keys on the keyboard, chances are you will not be able to utilize them all because there are so many. And if you are new to the game and you try to have a bunch of trigger meta skill gem to be a thing, sure, you can try, but there will be a lot of options, and there will be a lot of synergy, and there also will be a lot of anti-synergy as well. So chances are you might get lost if you want to play and try to optimize the strength out of this ascendancy. Also, the strength of this ascendancy is, well, it kind of depends on how strong the quality of skill gem is. In PoE1, there are some gems that have very, very strong qualities, bonuses, but there are some gems that just have kind of whatever throwaway quality as well. So it really depends on the build, on the gems that you are going to use. However, there's one thing that certainly is going to be very strong: the thaumaturgical infusion, the number 3 on the screen. 1% of maximum elemental resistance per respective color gem. Maximum resistances in PoE is extremely strong, and I don't see a world where they will change that in PoE2. Basically, in PoE1, you have 75% maximum resistances by default, and you can scale it, you can get it all up to 90%. Imagine you take 100 damage. If you have 90 resistant, you take 10 damage. But if you have 75 resistant, you take 25 damage. Now, if we compare those two numbers, 25 to 10, that is a 2.5 times more damage taken. So maximum resistances are extremely strong. In this game, I can kind of guarantee you that the longer you go into this game, the more elemental damage you will see, because they looks cooler by naturally looks cooler than physical damage per se. So this is going to be very strong. However, I would not recommend you to go for this particular Ascendancy class if you just want to start out and have a smooth experience, I would recommend the Witch Hunter instead of Gemling Legionaire if you play as a Mercenary. However, in this game, you probably will always still have the choice to, respec your Ascendancy classes. So if you are a Mercenary, you can respec, and from a Witch Hunter, you can just not being a Witch Hunter and becomes a Gemling Legionaire. The procedure of that, I'm not sure, but in POE1 that is quite easy actually. So keep that in mind. Next is the Monk. The Monks is going to have the Acolyte of Chayula. Well, I personally think this class also is like an endgame class. The problem here is the Embrace the Darkness here. Remove all spirits. Spirit is very strong in POE2 from what I see. Spirit is the source that you can run auras, you can run trigger, you can run a lot of utility thing and a lot of power in the spirit. So if you remove them all and you have a shield that, reserve damage for 10 seconds. So basically, if it is reserved, you don't have it for 10 seconds. 10 seconds is a very, very long time in PoE. I do believe from the footage of gameplay that I see on the reveal, well, 10 seconds is still going to be a very long time in PoE2 as well. So that is going to be a complete bait ascendancy, I believe. However, there are kind of an interesting thing that can be like really strong in endgame for the ascendancy. Assuming that Leech is strong enough, then Mana Leech is instant, is very strong. It will solve the sustain completely. And also, it has Mana Leech also recover energy shield. In this game, in PoE, energy shield is basically a alternate form of life. It protects your life by default, but there are ways that you can make it like replace life even. You will get it, Chaos Inoculation in the game. I don't want to spoil that. Anyway, it's pretty cool. Mana Leech applies to energy shield. So basically, if you continue to deal enough damage, you are going to be immortal unless you get one-shotted. This is pretty much this means, basically. So that is very cool. I think this has potential. Mana and energy shield in this game, at least in PoE1, they both scales very well from stacking a lot of intelligence. So it kind of depends on how much intelligence we can effectively stack and how well we can use intelligence to scale other factors of the character. In PoE1, we can use intelligence to scale damage, to scale increased damage, to scale base damage as well. So stacking intelligence just give you everything. That is going to be very strong in this case if those kind of things, those kind of scaling still exist in PoE2. But anyway, this is not going to be a friendly class to new players. This is a very, I think, very end game focused class, right? Next one, the Monk. The second class, the Invoker. I think this is going to be more straightforward and feels better for, newer player. If you want to really play around the Monk, I would recommend you to start out as an Invoker instead of the something of the Chayula, the teacher's pet. Well, Invoker, first thing, grants Meditate. The Meditate gives you double energy shield on that meditation period, I believe. I don't think there's going to be a strong skill. It makes you stand still. So maybe if you have double energy shield and that amount can help you to take a big hit that is very telegraphed by a boss or something, sure, but I don't think it is worth 1 point, because in PoE, if you stand still, that generally means it is a bad thing. You don't want to stand in one place, you want to move around, you want to dodge things. So I don't like faith is a choice here. However, I am the Blizzard. I don't know if GGG actually intend to have some kind of meme going on here, but I am the Blizzard. Hey, you can see the irony, right? Gain 10% of damage as extra cold, and on freezing enemies, create shield ground. I think this is going to be pretty strong. From all the Ascendancy notes that I have seen, 10% damage, 10% of damage as extra cold. This is of damage. In POE1, it is of... Normally, we only have a percent of physical damage as extra cold, which kind of... Sorry? Which kind of narrow down the potential and the options for you to actually scale and use the stat. However, this is 10% of just general damage. So basically you have 10% more base damage of whatever the thing that you are doing. I believe from the wording and from all that I know, the community know about GGG's wording, if this is correct, then even if you do like 10 cold damage, you are going to have 11 cold damage with this note. So 10% of damage as extra cold is going to be pretty strong. And also freezing create chill ground. Chill ground is going to slow down all enemies that is stepping on it. So that is going to be very powerful, very helpful in like helping you to have more time to dodge anything that is coming to your character. Anyway, so that's very cool. Also, in PoE, at least in PoE1, shocking, chilling on a big boss target is much harder than on smaller and normal monster, because you need to break a certain threshold. I believe that is going to be relevant in PoE2 as well. But if it is a ground effect, if it is a chilled ground, if it is a shock ground, if the enemy is on that particular ground, there is no threshold to break, you will always have the full effect of that particular element on the enemy, on the bosses. So the ground effect can be helpful in those kind of cases as well, especially early on when you don't probably you don't have as much gear, as much damage as you would want to effectively, reliably shock, chill, or freeze the enemy bosses. There is a kind of like stagger mechanic, or you need to build up the resilient of the break down the resilient of the boss to do chill, shock, freeze something. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I think the amount of damage and the effective of the ailment still is very, very relevant. So the ground, the chill ground, the shock ground here is going to be very helpful, very nice. The Unbound avatar in number 4, and I shall rage. This is just going to be a feels good button to press. You are going to be faster, you are going to deal more damage, you are going to be the airbender if you want to, because you are going to be the airbender if you want to, because this class can have wind skills. So hey, scatter them to the wind. Grant skill elemental expression. Trigger elemental expression on melee critical strike hit. So if you play a melee elemental damage, this is going to just be like firework basically. And there's one very nice thing that I think I need to mention here. In PoE2, Jonathan actually mentioned in the Q&A that all the skills from any ascendancies can actually be supported by support gems. So elemental expression, you can support it by additional support gems, so it can actually be a very, very nice source of extra damage, of extra effect on everything, pretty much. It is going to be, I think, if you play Monk, if you play Invoker, you should go for this route. It will feel amazing, it will feel like explosive, and it will look very nice. Alright, so Invoker, pretty good one. Early on, I think it is going to be relatively friendly if you want to, get a hold of the game as a new player, especially. Next is the Witch Infernalist. Well, this class, I even have a video talking specifically about this class before this video. So if you want to check it out, I will make sure I leave the link in the description and also by the end of the video. Well, this class is strong. Loyal Hellhound, this is going to be a minion that resemble like multiple golems in PoE1, or maybe it resemble the Guardian, the big Saiyan guy in the Guardian Ascendancy. So it is going to be a very strong minion. That is what I'm going to say. It is going to help you be tankier, it is going to help you deal damage, and most importantly, this time in PoE2, it's not going to die and you need to resummon it with a very long action. I believe this minion is going to revive itself after a couple of seconds, and then also it can be supported by support gem. That is going to be the more important thing. So yeah, I think it is going to be very nice. A very strong thing to start out. If you have this Ascendancy, probably this minion alone, if you have proper support for it, it will just crush the game for you. Second, actually this is number one. Demonic Possession. So grant skill Demon Form. Demon Form, you just transform into a demon. I do believe it works the same way as the Lich form in Last Epoch. From what I see, it will just have a decay rate in health that is going to be ramp up with time, and if you want to stay in the demon form to get all the benefit from it for longer, you will need to have a lot of life recovery. In demon form, you are faster, you deal more damage, but you also takes more damage. But I do think, as the Lich form in Last Epoch, I know that the depth of the two game kind of talk with each other a lot. I think if you take enough damage to reduce your life to 1 or 0 in demon form here, you will just turn back into the normal Infernalist. So you will not die. It basically is another life for you, basically. So I think this is going to be very strong. Probably is a no-brainer one-pointer. Next one, Pyromantic Pact. Well, this is an insanely interesting note for me personally. In PoE1, we have a bunch of different trigger build that basically is like a 0-button build. Just we run around, we trigger a lot of stuff on condition, we don't press any active skill button, and it feels very fun for me, at least. Maximum mana is replaced by Infernal Flame. So Infernal Flame is not going to be like you have 1,000 Infernal Flame and if you cast a skill you lose some of it. It's going to start at 0, and then if you spend mana instead, you will gain Infernal Flame, and when you reach maximum Infernal Flame, you will take some damage. Well, taking damage in PoE is generally a bad thing, but in a lot of cases, in some cases, we can actually turn it into a good thing to try to trigger a bunch of things on damage taken. And also, this will just remove mana sustain as a whole. You don't need to sustain mana at all. If it reaches maximum, you will lose all of it, and you can just regain it again because you are gaining, you are not, spending. So you don't have mana problem whatsoever with Pyromantic Pact. It is going to feel very nice. Also, you will lose 10% of Infernal Flame per second if it was not gained in the past 2 seconds. So basically, if you run around and you don't want to take damage from the maximum Infernal Flame, you can just run around for a little bit and it will just gradually decrease. But if you want to build around this Ascendancy, I think building around some form of trigger with damage taken or getting some kind of benefit with taking damage is going to be kind of a theme around this Ascendancy point. That is going to be getting the most out of it. Bringer of Flame. While not on low Infernal Flame, this can be very easily achievable. Low Infernal Flame, I believe, if it is still like PoE1, that means below 50%. So if you want to sustain your Infernal Flame to be more than 50%, well, just continue casting once every 2 seconds. It's just that simple. All the damage from you and your minions contribute to Ignite chance and magnitude. So Ignite is going to be stronger and easier. That is very straightforward. We still have a lot of undiscovered points in here. I think this is just going to be very strong ascendancy. Also, earlier, because you are a witch, you are a summoner by default. And summoner is generally quite strong without, you know, a lot of gear. And you can focus on dodging, on, you know, learning the mechanic of bosses and things like that. So this is a very nice class to start out, in my opinion. And the Infernalist is probably the stronger choice in the two Witch Ascendancy classes. Because the next one, Bloodmage. This is also another class that is, I think, very endgame focused. While you have a lot of like scaling option that is revolving around stacking or something. So I think this is the theme that we have seen in all the classes that we have seen before, that I've talked about in this video. So the Mercenary also have one class that is very friendly, very easy to, you know, be strong early on, and then one class is very endgame focused, stacking gems. The Monk also have one class that kind of lean towards stacking intelligence, which is the Chaos one, the Darkness one, and then one class that is just generally easy to play in the Invoker. And this time the Witch, same case. Bloodmage is very endgame and very gear dependent. Gain energy shield from equipped body armor as extra maximum life. This is, I mean, for life stacking, this is an insane effect in PoE1. But in PoE2, I don't know, really. But there's one thing that I want to mention in PoE2 from the information that I know. In PoE1, we have a lot of increased life on the skill tree. But in PoE2, a lot is changing. We don't have a lot of increased life in the skill tree anymore. In fact, we have close to none increased life in the skill tree. We basically scale maximum life, flat maximum life from strength and from gear. And then in the skill tree, there are only some notable that give you like 3%, 2% life, and there are not many of them. So life here from any source is going to be massive because you don't have a lot of ways to scale life. It's not going to be like a bad thing because I believe they do scale the damage accordingly to the amount of life that we have. So we don't need to worry about if you need to have like 5k life in PoE1 to be relatively tanky. I'm just giving an example here. In PoE2, if you have 2k, you might be just alright, even tankier than 5k in PoE1, so yeah, don't worry about it. But anyway, this is a class that is centric around stacking a lot of life to gain a bunch of other bonuses. And it has life sustain in form of the life remnant, which is basically a life orb that just drop around and you need to pick them up to regain life. So this is like a vampire kind of thing. It's pretty cool, but it's not going to be easy to play early on, I think. So if you want to play as a witch, I would highly recommend you to go for the Infernalist. And maybe later, if you want to try out this class, you can respec. I believe that is going to be an option. Right. Next one, we get to the Sorceress. So, Chronomancer. We have Temporal Rift, which revert your character, teleport back in time, so you have the health. I believe you also have the cooldown back. Maybe just the health and mana. But anything, if it is like in PoE1, I don't really like this ability. In PoE1, we have this ability in a unique item, but nobody ever used it. And then I'm not even sure if it is a skill gem, but I'm sure it is in the Stasis Prison unique body armor. We have this. If it is a skill gem, I don't remember because nobody is using it. It just doesn't feel right. It's very hard to control. But in PoE2, we don't know. Maybe the pace of the game is different. Maybe the scaling of the game is different. Maybe this is going to be helpful. But travel back in time, basically you just snap back and you just blink backward to where you were. Unbound Encore, Time Snap. This is going to reset all of your cooldown. So this is going to be good if you build around using like very high cooldown, which normally comes with very strong effect or just very strong damage. So Time Snap is going to be very strong on those kind of scenario where you effectively have double the damage immediately. If you have, like, for example, the most famous skill that we know in POE2 as of right now is the Hammer of the Gods. It is a very, very high damage effectiveness skill, 1,300 something percent of damage, which is a huge number if you don't know. Time Snap is going to allow you to use it twice immediately instead of waiting for the cooldown of the skill, which I believe is 24 seconds. A long ass time indeed. Last one, Time Freeze. This is just going to basically freeze everything around you for a duration. This is going to be very strong. Hey, nothing can move except you, except for in the Q&A. Jonathan actually mentioned there is one particular boss that is also a time master, time manipulator of some sort. And he kind of is immune or resistant to some of the ability of the Chronomancer. That is pretty funny interaction in my opinion. I don't think it's going to break the game because all these skill that is the Chronomancer is having, I just see them as pure utility. So the fight is going to be harder if they are immune to those kind of ability that this class is having. But anyway, to be completely honest, I am not really a fan of this class. I would recommend the other class, which we are going to talk about. If you're playing a sorceress, my recommendation is go for a Stormweaver. This is going to be, like, again, same theme. This class is going to be much easier to play, much straightforward, much more like strong, just straightforward, very straightforward to be stronger. So it grants Elemental Storm, trigger Elemental Storm on critical strike hit with spell. I think this is going to be very easy, especially if it has a low cooldown. Elemental Storm, we don't have the exact information on it, but from the showcase in the video, I saw the character that GG showed to trigger multiple Elemental Storm at the same time. So if this have a very low cooldown or even no cooldown, it is going to be absolutely insane because there's a lot of skill in PoE that can hit for multiple times. And if it crit, it would just flood the screen with a lot of storms. And the Elemental Storm here can be supported by support gems, so we can scale the damage, we can scale the AoE, we can have additional effect on it. Super strong. And Elemental Storm here, I think how it works, it depends on the hit that you are dealing damage with. If it deals the most lightning damage, it's going to be Lightning Storm, so maybe you can do some shock thing with it. If you are a cold build, it will be a Chilling Storm, something like that. Fire Storm if you do Fire Spell. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with this, I believe. Highly recommended to try this one out. This is going to be feeling amazing, right? Strike twice, so allow you to shock for 2 instead of once. In PoE 1, shock can be by default increase the damage taken of enemies by I think it is 50%, and then you can scale it, the maximum effect, a little bit higher, but let's just say 50%. If this still is the same shock in PoE 1, this is going to double the amount of increased damage taken to 100% instead of 50%. It is going to be strong if you can effectively do a big shock. In order to do a big shock, we'll need to wait for the actual game and see how easy / how hard it is to actually shock a big target. There are sources of increased effect of ailment in PoE 1. I think there will be in PoE 2 as well, so this potentially can be very strong damage. And Shaper of Storm, all damage from hits contribute to shock chance. So this is just going to make your shock easier and stronger, because probably from the wording of this, I can pretty safely say that shock is going to work relatively the same as in PoE 1. So this is just damage. Very nice. Next up, Ranger, and this time is the Deadeye. For someone who plays PoE1, this looks very familiar. In PoE1, we also have extra projectile, we also have tailwind, which makes the character faster. In PoE2, I think this class is just classic bow user, so additional projectile is extremely strong, especially in the sense that in PoE2, one support gem, I'm talking about multiple projectile here, one support gem can only be linked to one single skill. Other skills that you are also using cannot use that particular support gem anymore. So additional projectile on all skills is going to be very, very, very strong. If you enjoy a bow's playstyle in any ARPG game, you are going to enjoy this. No accuracy penalty at distance. Well, that is going to feel very nice, very consistent. Accuracy, if you don't invest in it, it will feel kind of awkward because you hit the enemy, but you don't hit the enemy. It don't deal damage. So accuracy out of the picture is, I think it's kind of nice. In PoE1, it's not that hard to solve this one, but in PoE2, it might be different. And if accuracy is relatively harder to get in PoE2, then this node is going to be very strong. Other than that, it is going to be something that you take if you don't have anything else to take, really. Gathering Wind, Tailwind, you are faster. So, yeah, this is just very straightforward. Ascendancy, I think it's going to be strong. But, I'm being honest here, it looks a little bit boring if you are a PoE1 player. Because you already you already have all of this, you already experienced all of this in PoE1. But as a new player, this class is going to feel very good. It's going to be very fast. It's going to shoot a lot of projectiles, which cover a very long distance and very big AoE. So it feels very nice. I can guarantee that. Right? And bow build is never weak in PoE, per se. It always is very strong endgame. It can be... sometimes it can be harder to get to the end game where bow build is strong, but it always is very strong with a lot of gear, a lot of currency / money. And not real money, by the way. Just want to stress that one out. Ranger Pathfinder. Well, this class, I don't really have a good idea about how this class is going to be strong or not, because the number one thing here, as you can see, you have fulminating concoction. So basically you have the concoction skill, which basically you throw your you throw your flask, or you throw a potion that do something. Bleeding, concoction obviously do bleed. I believe this is going to be bleed, ignite, poison, shock, and chill or freeze or something. It's just going to be one element, one kind of effect for each option that you have in here. So this is going to be ignite here, bleeding here, probably poison in one of these. This is going to be shock or something, and it's just going to be those kind of things. You have one choice if you take this point, and then I think it really... So I want to talk about running assault first. This is going to feel pretty good. 30% less movement penalty when using skill while moving. Your character is just inherently more mobile with this node. It's just going to feel good. Relentless pursuit. You are immune to slow. This is the question mark over here. So it's going to be here. Well, you are immune to slow. In the game, there will be a lot of things that will slow down your character, and it feels very nice to be able to have your base movement speed, to dodge on everything, to have full control of your character all the time. Sorry. So this is going to feel amazing, but it doesn't really add like more firepower to your character. You're not tankier, you're not dealing more damage, so it is just going to be pure quality of life, right? The strength of this class, from everything that we see here, is based on how strong poison is really. Most damaging poison on enemy use skill also spread to enemies within 1.5 meters. This basically is proliferation in PoE1. If you are new to PoE, proliferation is well, if you poison one enemy and there are enemies nearby, it will just spread. The other ones will also take poison damage. So it can also sorry, again, it can also be like a chain reaction of some sort. So this is going to feel nice if you build poison and then you want to clear a bunch of enemies that are close together. The more you go into the end game, the more density you will have a monster in general. So it'll feel very, very nice for clearing large packs of monster. Double the number of poisons you can inflict on enemies, but less poison duration. So less poison duration is never good because it's just less damage. But because now from the wording of this, we now have a maximum number of poison, so double that seems strong. I think from the information that I know from the people who already played the early close alpha test, the default amount of poison that you can have on an enemy is 1. But you have multiple nodes on the skill tree that allow you to have 1 additional poison, and I believe you can have 5 maximum poison on an enemy just on the skill tree, right? And double that means 10 stacks, so just double the potential damage per second. So I think it is going to be strong node if poison is in a good state, if that makes sense. Next up, Warrior Titan. So, Earthbreaker. 20% chance for slam skills you use yourself to cause aftershock. So this is going to be very nice. It pretty much is extra damage on single target, but also for clearing, the aftershock is going to be have a little bit of a delay, and then you will deal AoE damage on that point. So if you have a slam skill that is also mobility, and while you're moving around, this is going to feel very nice. One particular skill that I'm interested about is Stampede. So I do believe that Stampede, even though it is a movement skill, from all that we've seen on the footage, shows on gameplay, Stampede seems to be a slam skill. So Stampede can have very nice synergy with this. If you just move around with Stampede, you hit the enemy with Stampede and you trigger the aftershock, you're going to have much better AoE, much better clear, and it's going to feel very nice. Other than that, it looks very cool as well. So, hey. Crushing Impact, your hits are Crushing Blow. Crushing Blow is just you stun the enemy. And then the following node, you are going to have the following node is here. The image is cut not very well here, I'm sorry for that, but it is the following node of the Crushing Impact. 40% damage against heavy stunned enemies. So these work together. If you take this one, probably you should take this one, so you deal more damage. It's just very straightforward. I think this is going to be a very nice class, especially if you enjoy the kind of like manly gigachat playstyle of a melee character using big weapon, doing big damage in a big area effect. Hey, this is for you. I'm interested in this class as well, but you know, when the game released, I think I want to see all these nodes first before I can decide if it is good or not. But this is straightforward. This seems very straightforward, and I believe you are going to have additional option for like defense here as well, as a melee gigachat character. So just play this one if you know this is your kind of like fantasy character. Warrior, Warbringer, this is going to be around the totem a little bit. So Ancestral Spirit, we do not really, I don't think anyone really know what this does. Ancestral Spirit, at least not yet. So this node, I have no comment about it, but if it's good, if the Ancestral Spirit do something amazing, then it's good. Hey. Jade Heritage, I don't like this. This makes your character very tanky, like immortal, but you stand still. So yes, again, standing still is never really good. It doesn't feel good. It is not really good because if it breaks the moment you lose control of your character, right? So if the Jade break the moment that the boss is slamming down on your face, you have no time to react, and you basically just watch your character die. I'm not a fan of this. Luckily, right? If you look at the position of this node on the skill tree, there's no node around it, so there is nothing gatekeep behind this node. So I think this is a pretty bad node, to be honest. But hey, if it is your style, then go for it. But I think it's pretty bad. Warcaller's Bellow. Corpses in your presence explode when you warcry. So this, yeah, it's just extra damage, extra AoE while clearing. Sadly, in PoE 1 we have the Desecrate, Skill Gem, and also Unearth that create corpses. But in PoE 2, I think Jonathan mentioned that there will be no corpse creating skill. Even Detonate Dead, which is very famous in PoE 1, everybody know, Desecrate, and then we Detonate Dead to explode the corpses and deal damage. Detonate Dead in PoE 2 becoming Detonate a minion of you. So I think they are moving away from the fact that we can generate the corpses and deals damage by exploding the corpses. So that is very, very sad to see. If this is in PoE 1, it's going to be very, very broken. But in PoE 2, hey, it is extra clear. It is what it is, I think. On the positioning on the tree, well, you can take it to get to number 4. Ignore Warcry cooldowns. I would imagine that the other node here, the counterpart, the other way to lead to Warcry have no cooldown, is going to be something around Warcry buff to slam skill or to something, you know. Oh, actually it doesn't lead to this, so hey. If Warcry is very good, then I think this is going to be good. If the Warcry gives you a lot of buff, of very powerful buffs, then this is going to be a good choice. But if Warcry is just whatever, it's just kind of meh, then it will just kills everything here, because the explosion here basically do nothing in a lot of boss fights. If the boss spawns some small monster, then you will have to kill those monsters to get the corpses, and then you will have to lure the boss to the position of the corpse, and then you will Warcry and explode them on the bosses. You can see the problem, right? There's a lot of things to make this even work on fighting bosses. For clearing maps and in general, I think this is going to feel pretty nice, but probably you will have more attractive option here. So far, my favorite in the 2 warrior is going to be the Titan. This class doesn't scream attractiveness to me personally. Okay, so that is everything. I hope you have a decent grasp on all the classes that I have just shown you in the video here. Let me just bring up the screen again. All right. So yeah, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video, and also let me know what you think about all the classes in PoE2 early access. What is going to be your preferred choice going into the game blindly, as we all know right now? Sorry, my throat is having a problem yet again. I think personally the safest choices are going to be the Mercenary, Witch Hunter. That is going to be a very, very good start. The second one that is going to be a very good start is Invoker, but I think this class is going to be relatively squishy, so you will need to worry about defense. This is going to feel amazing as well. Infernalist, I think this minion alone can just carry you through the game, literally. And then you have interesting option to go for later. So Infernalist is going to be very good, starting as a witch. This is going to be a second good choice. The first choice is the Mercenary, Witch Hunter. Second, Witch, Infernalist. And probably the third one I think is going to feel the best is going to be Sorceress, Stormweaver. from the footage that we have seen in PoE, in the GG's reveal, this looks amazing. The clear potential, the synergy with the classes, just looks amazing, right? So this is going to feel good. Deadeye is going to be recommended as well. Deadeye is going to be good. And then, yeah, if this is your style, if this is your fantasy, go for this one. But in PoE, regardless of what GG is trying to say, range is just going to be superior. Range is just going to be better overall. Maybe in PoE2 is not going to be as much of a difference as it is in PoE1, but mechanically being melee is normally not as good as being at range. You have a built-in extra safetyness on being just far away from, the danger. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoy. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this content, and stay tuned for more coming for PoE2. I will be releasing quite a lot of things, because if I have something that I think is interesting or helpful in mind about PoE2, I will release the video on it. I think I already mentioned in the beginning of this video that I am going to try to make a short version that is going to give you all the basic information that I think are important on the GG livestream, the GG Q&A with Ziggity, and also the podcast from Jonathan Broger, the game director, and Darth Microtransaction and Gazi TV. So yeah, exciting stuff. I didn't watch the podcast, and I will watch it now. So hey, cheers. See you next time.